I am going to share screen and we're going to get started because we want to be able to help you on your job interview and your job hunt. So let's get going with that. And so if you're just joining us, welcome to APEA's Town Hall. This one is a little bit different than the other town halls in that this one is for newly certified NPs. So welcome and congratulations. APEA wants to help you launch your new career. And so just some housekeeping things before we get started. This is a team behind the scenes. Michelle and Nina are behind the scenes waiting to answer your questions or help you if you need something related to the webinar. But the first of the three NPs that you're going to see is Jennifer. And I want to tell you about her right now. Jennifer works for us at APEA as our CE coordinator. She works on special projects. She earned her master's degree from DeSales, and she just does a little bit of everything. She's written a number of articles, and she's authored the Clinical Briefs, which is a product that we have at APEA that allows you to earn contact hours. And I did not know this about Jennifer, but apparently she's a really prestige croquet player. You'll have to show me that sometime, Jennifer.
I will. Game on.
And you know, I would tell you this about Jennifer, and you'll pick this up really quickly with her personality, but she says that she's the employee of the month every month at APEA since 2016. So, Jennifer, thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
And I just realized I didn't even tell people where you worked. You work in a very busy level 1 trauma center in Philadelphia. So welcome and thanks for all you do as a nurse, but thank you especially for what you do for us at APEA.
Thank you.
The next person I want to introduce you to is Dr. Kathy Baldridge. And Dr. Kathy Baldridge is a family nurse practitioner in Alexandria, but at APEA, she works as our director of psychometric analysis, which means she crunches numbers on questions. One of the things I'm most proud of with Dr. Baldridge is that she serves as president of our state nurse practitioner association. And we just finished a really hard fought battle that didn't end with us on top, but we are coming back strong again. And Dr. Right. Kathy led the charge for us. So she earned her DNP in 2013 from the University of Alabama. And just like Jennifer, Dr. Kathy has written a number of different articles and sections in the clinical guidelines book. And her latest is a brand new billing and coding book that fits in your coat pocket for outpatients. So Dr. Kathy, congratulations on that. And just again, thank you for everything you do for us, for NPs in the state of Louisiana and for us at APEA.
My pleasure. And I get the pleasure of introducing Dr. Amelie Oye, who really needs no introduction, right? Because like everybody knows your name. Wasn't that theme? That was a theme song for something, right? So she is the president, CEO, and founder of Advanced Practice Education Associates. She had this vision many years ago and has carried it out. And we're so excited that she did. I took her course when I graduated as a nurse practitioner. Never dreamed I would be working here, but look, you never know what's going to come your way, right? She is a family nurse practitioner, has been practicing for more than 2 decades, also a fellow in the American Association of Nurse Practitioners, has authored, co-authored, and edited more than 26 books for nurse practitioners. And I think it comes through her passion for teaching nurse practitioners. Thank you, Dr. Amelie, for leading the charge.
Well, thank you, Dr. Kathy. And again, thank you, Jennifer. We're ready to get this show going. Yes. But I got to make sure that people who are here know if they need help, we have people there to help them. If you use a chat feature in Zoom, you can text something that you need that's non-clinical related, maybe internet or something like that. You can always call us, and you can always email us if you have questions during the webinar. When you have a question for Dr. Kathy or Jennifer or myself, please put it in the Q&A feature, and we'll get to it. And we want to get to as many of your questions as possible. Just an important reminder that all APEA products, including this webinar, are copyrighted, and which means that no portion should be copied or distributed in any form, and we appreciate your cooperation. Well, this is why you're here today. It's to talk about launching your new career. And I said congratulations earlier. I could say it 10 more times. That's how important it is. And that's how exciting it is. But right now, you're ready to take the next step in your career. And that's what we want to be able to help you with today. So you know that you're going to earn contact hours. And these are the objectives for the programs today. And just a reminder that within 3 business days, you'll receive an email link that will allow you to take the post-test and print your certificate. So, I mean, it's a free contact hour. We want to make sure you get it to jumpstart your collection of contact hours for your next recertification in 5 years. So let's start out by just saying we need to indicate, and what we're going to do during this webinar is we're going to follow a brand new NP through the whole process of getting a new job. So, Jennifer?
Here's the thing, though. So this character has no name. And when we were developing this PowerPoint, we were trying to come up with a name, and we figured, why not have our new NPs, the audience, come up with a name? So what I'd like you to do is throw in the comment section what you'd like this little gem's name to be, and we will follow her throughout her interview process and the beginning stages of her career. So if you can just take a second, pick a name. I don't care if it's your dog's name or your grandmother's name. Pick a cool name and put it in there. Dr. Kathy's going to pick which one that she wants to use.
All right. Well, I'm seeing some pretty good ones come in here.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, there's some good ones. Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, just pick one, Dr. Kathy. Just pick anyone.
Okay. Well, I tell you, I really liked Bella, so we're going to use Bella. Bella Blue. I like it. She's got on blue scrubs. Bella Blue.
Perfect.
All right. And she wants to first thank Dr. Amelie because she feels like Dr. Amelie has prepared her very well for the boards. So thank you, Dr. Amelie. She took the review course. She's done Q-Banks. Man, she is ready. And she goes, and guess what? She passes. She knows right away. Woo! I'm a new nurse practitioner. I'm a party. And then she wakes up the next morning and she's like, wait, okay, now what? I have to get a job. Oh my gosh. And she's probably thought about it at some time in the past, but now it really sets in. I need a job. Mm-hmm. So what am I going to do as a new nurse practitioner? So she starts searching. She finds some jobs on Indeed for nurse practitioners. We chose 3 that we put up here for you because there's some things we want to point out to you. If you look at the first one, this is an urgent care. And they have positions open that are full-time, part-time, and PRN opportunities. Doesn't really tell us what the pay is, but it's competitive. Okay. Competitive benefits. Okay, well, that's looking pretty good. That might be all right. What about this psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner? Well, that'd be good if Bella Blue is a psych NP. But if she's an FNP, then it's not going to be a fit for her because it's not within her scope of practice to practice as a psych mental health nurse practitioner if she's a family nurse practitioner, even though that $800 a day looks pretty good. Okay. And then the last one, that's for a specialty. That's Louisiana, because we're in Louisiana, cardiovascular thoracic clinic. And so it would be a cardiology nurse practitioner. That salary, $80,000 to $122,000. Okay, that's pretty good. And it's a full-time opportunity. So she's got some options here, right? Mm-hmm. At least a couple. We're going to assume she's a family nurse practitioner. So she's got 2 options. The psych mental health nurse practitioner wouldn't be able to do the urgent care or the cardio either. Anything to add, Dr. Amelie?
I really don't. As you look through maybe ads or things like that, Dr. Kathy mentioned on Indeed, make sure that you pick one that matches your scope of practice. That's the most important one.
Yeah, absolutely. So now she's got some job opportunities and she's thinking, okay, well, but I don't have experience. Neither one of them really said that you had to have experience, but how do I even know what I'm worth? How do I even go about that? I mean, like, I'm a new grad here. So what's my next step? Well, your next step is, especially when you're determining your worth, one of them said competitive salary and benefits. What is competitive? You need to do some research. Find out what the salary ranges are in your community. If you're going to be working in an urgent care, what are other urgent cares paying nurse practitioners? There's lots of Facebook groups out there. Find one that's in your community. Join your local organization because they can help you with that too. They usually have what the salary ranges are for your community, but educate yourself on what to expect as far as the salary goes. Other things that you need to educate yourself on are the types of income that are out there. It can be a straight salary, where you make that no matter whether you work 40 hours a week or 60 hours a week. That's what your pay is going to be the same every time. Percentage of net receipts, that's kind of like if you are your income is going to be based on what you do and how much income you bring in. And that income is going to be gross income. Okay. So that's the total income you bring in. But wherever you're working, they're going to have to take things out of that. How much it costs to keep the lights on, how much it costs to pay the front desk receptionist, those sorts of things. So the percentage of net receipts is what's left over after all the bills have been paid, and you negotiate that percentage, and that would be an income. Sometimes it's base salary, which may be a straight salary, plus the percentage, which is a great deal because then it kind of motivates you to want to do more. It's a good deal for employers too. And then there's the hourly rate. A lot of times, if you have a PRN or a part-time job opportunity, you're not going to have benefits with that. And so the hourly rate is usually what you're going to get. And sometimes it's even higher because you don't have all those benefits. But again, it's important to know what the community rates are for straight salary, for hourly rate. What is the going negotiation for those net receipts? So educate yourself on all of that and kind of have in mind what you would expect from a potential employer. Okay.
Yeah.
As a new nurse practitioner.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like to add, Dr. Kathy, is that a lot of times people will start at a salary and they have the potential to earn more money at 6 months or a year. So this salary, if that's what you get, is not something that you're going to expect, from here on out. So a lot of employers will say, we're going to start you at this, but if by 6 months you're seeing this many patients a day, we'll move you up to this amount. So that may be in flux, but it's important to find out about this as you start, or before you start, actually, before you accept the job. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yep. So now she kind of knows what she can expect as far as salary. And as a new nurse practitioner, that's what her worth is. So the next question is, well, how do I sell myself? Because at this point, you've made a big role change from an RN position to a nurse practitioner. And you learned about those role changes through school. But now that you actually have that certification in hand and the APRN licensure in hand, you may not feel very confident. But here's what I tell students all the time. Go back and remind yourself, look, you had a great nursing career. Patients told you how much they loved you taking care of them. Encourage yourself because your confidence level needs to be up enough that you can sell yourself. So you certainly don't want to be, like I'm fair. No, I'm invincible. And that's the attitude that you need to walk forward with when you're looking for a great job. So one of the best things you can do for yourself to sell yourself is to make a good curriculum vitae. Okay. Your curriculum vitae tells the course of your life. Now it's the course of your medical life. Okay. When you're listing jobs on your CV, we don't want to know if you worked at Burger King in high school. It's not pertinent to what we're doing. So this is the history of your medical life. Now, if you were a phlebotomist before you decided to go back and get your RN and advance to a nurse practitioner, include that on there. That's medical skill that, shows your progression, and it's another skill that you have that maybe somebody else won't. Okay. But your curriculum vitae is your best opportunity to sell yourself. And when people look at this, they're going to look at this before they even meet you.
Right.
And so this is your best chance to make a good first impression. And you never get a second chance to make a good first impression. So make sure you got this right to begin with. Yeah. Include summary of experience and skills, any leadership positions that you've ever held, what clerical skills that you have. If you're very proficient in Microsoft Word or Excel, and any electronic health records that you've used in your history. Because if you're very proficient in Athena because you've used that, and you're going to work in a clinic that uses Athena, then hey, that's a notch up for you, because they're not going to have to teach you how to use their system. Include your clinical log everywhere that you did clinicals, how many hours you were at those clinical sites, degrees, transcripts, any awards that you've won, any publications. And you know what? If you did a thesis or a research paper, that is counted as a publication. If you did any presentations throughout your program, include those, because that shows that you're a well-rounded nurse practitioner.
Yeah. Just a couple of points about what Dr. Kathy said. She mentioned Athena. And, it doesn't matter if the clinic uses a different kind of electronic health record than you know about. As someone who interviews people, I will know right away that they at least have experience in that. And they might not know the ins and outs of Athena, but they have the whole concept of medical records. You need to look at that as a check in your box. That's something that you offer that someone else may not be able to. So even though it's not the same medical record, you have experience in that. And that's something I would say if I was asked about it. The other thing, you may be looking at Dr. Kathy's CV, and you see publications and presentations, and you might think, well, I don't know why they want that on here, because I'm not going to be doing publications for them. It tells us about the person that we might want to hire. It lets us know that you're interested in professional activities. That just goes to kind of completing out an entire nurse practitioner. I want you because you can take care of patients, but I want to know that there's something else besides just your ability to take care of patients. So that's an important thing. Don't forget that on your CV.
Very good. Absolutely. Other skills that you may have done, if you've done minor office procedures, suturing, if you have a certificate because you did the education to learn how to do Nexplanon implants, all of that is very important to include on your CV. If you haven't done any of those and you're having some difficulty maybe finding a job because they do want experience, there are resources out there for you to get that education. We have some on the APEA site. So get that education. It's hands-on. It's going to give you more experience. And you can see, like if you were going for that urgent care position and you've got listed minor office procedures and sutures on your CV, that you have been educated in that, and the other two that are against you have not, then you're more likely to get the position because they want somebody that has at least been exposed to that type of education. Any continuing education that you've done, any community service that you've done. We get a lot of questions from nurse practitioner students, and they're like, well, everybody says they want experience, but I don't have any experience. Seek out free clinics in your area. A lot of areas do have them. Find out areas that you can volunteer, because that is experience. It doesn't have to be paid experience, but seek those opportunities out. If you attended or participated in mission trips, that's community service. And it shows your interest in being a leader and giving back to the community, which is very important to employers, because who are they serving? they're serving the community. And so if you're an active participant in the community, then they feel like you're going to be a good fit because you're willing to give back to the community. Make sure you include your professional memberships on there. That's a great leadership strength when you belong to your national and your state organizations. Hobbies and interests, that kind of seems funny, right? Why would I include my hobbies on my CV? Now listen, don't have 15 bullets of hobbies on there. Just put a couple that you're really interested in. But it might be a good icebreaker, because remember, they're looking at this, they don't know anything about you. And so when you come in, one of the questions they might ask is, oh my gosh, I see that you like to paint cypress knees. What's a cypress knee? And it's a good icebreaker. And it just starts the conversation so that they can learn more about you. And heck, they may have the same hobby or interest. And so it gives you a point of contact with that person. Faculty, employer, and preceptor references, have those ready, have them already typed up and included. Now, you see portfolio at the top there. I use my CV as the index for what goes in my portfolio. And I said I was going to have it ready, and it's on the shelf behind me. So I'll have to get it and hold it up in a minute. But that CV is in front of my portfolio, and every licensure, every certificate, every number, MPI number, DEA number, CDS number, those are included on my CV, and then also in my portfolio with CE certificates and everything else. So it's a great professional thing to do. It's going to help you in the long run. So consider that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, as someone who interviews potential employees, I like to look at their portfolio. It tells me not just about their level and degree of organization, but it lets me know, as Dr. Kathy said, all of the skills and things that they have. You may never have done suturing or minor office procedures outside of your student life, but it lets me know, as somebody who wants to hire you, that you at least have been exposed to that. And I can see with a certificate or something like that, that you've got it. It's going to, it just goes a long way in helping me figure out who's going to be the best fit for the clinic. So I see that Dr. Kathy probably has gotten her
there
portfolio.
It is. There's my, and I've got it tabbed out, and it really does help keep you organized, because you'll need a lot of this stuff when you go through credentialing, whether it's hospital credentialing or insurance credentialing. So believe me, it'll save you a lot of stress if you just go ahead and develop yourself a portfolio.
And if you're a new NP, it's not going to be as thick as Dr. Kathy's, who's been in for a while.
But I just wanted to add, because of new NPs, I just came to mind, new NPs sometimes don't have as big of a portfolio list we do. However, there's so much you do bring to the table. Number one, you're a new to practice NP, so you don't have any bad habits yet. That's number one, and you're willing to learn. Secondly, is if you are involved in community, you're a people person. You can't teach that in a book. So you have that to offer. There's a lot of things that, and of course, what Dr. Kathy said before about being savvy with documentation and different ways for medical records to approach. So, there are a lot of things that employers might look at you like, this is the perfect opportunity to teach this NP and to get this NP specific to the way we practice here. So there is a lot of things that you might not recognize that you're very good at already.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, Jennifer. So the next slide I pulled up is preparing for the interview. And I'll tell you, it goes a long way with someone who is going to interview you when they see that you know about the clinic, you've investigated the clinic where you think you want to work, or maybe you're going to be working for a health system. You need to go online and learn about the place where you think you might want to go to work, not only because you need to know, but if I ask you a question, it would be very, very important that you at least investigated who you thought you might want to work for. So make sure that you do that. There's some good questions to ask here about experience. Do you have you ever employed a nurse practitioner before? See whatever it is you can learn about that clinic. And I'll tell you, it's good to talk to people who may have worked for that clinic or the health system, maybe. If the clinic is part of a health system, and many of them are going that way now, but don't believe everything that you hear. So you got to do your homework in looking at and doing as good a job of investigating who you want to work for as who you want to work for will do in investigating you. On the day of the interview, this sort of goes without saying, and I don't know that I've ever interviewed someone who didn't come in professionally dressed, but occasionally you'll come in from a job, maybe you'll be in scrubs. I've had people come in and tell me, I'm just leaving my other job and I apologize that I didn't get a chance to dress. That lets me know that, they're thinking in a professional mode. So as I told you earlier, we don't want to just hire someone who works clinically. I want to make sure that they've got a professional umbrella about them as well. Make sure that you arrive early. If you haven't had the experience of interviewing people, sometimes interviews can go behind, but sometimes people don't even show up. And that means that the interviewers can get to you earlier. So make sure that you arrive early, and you never, ever want to have someone waiting on you. And if you're going to be late, make sure that you pick up the phone and call somebody and let them know. There's been a wreck on I-10, it's 20 minutes, and they can give you the option of either rescheduling an interview or they can say, can you come at 4:00? We have an opening then. So you want to be courteous to the people who are going to spend their time interviewing you. The next bullet says to bring your CV and letters and references. Do that, but make sure you have 2 copies. I'd like you to have a copy in front of you and a copy to give to the interviewer if they ask for it. And if they don't ask for it at the end of the interview, I would give it to them and tell them, this is some additional information that I want you to know about me. So make sure that you bring 2 copies of that. That'll also allow you to see what they're seeing. Because, generally when you hand something to somebody, they open it up. And they may have a question for you about something on your CV, and you'll need to know exactly what they're referencing. On the day of the interview as well, there are lots of questions that people can ask you. I always ask, what made you apply for this job? And sometimes it's funny. I've had NPs tell me, I really needed a job. That's not the answer I was looking for.
That's not the answer.
What called you about this job? So make sure that you have an answer like that in your head, and that you can tell it with sincerity and with passion, because I want to make sure that you'll be a good fit for the clinic where I'm going to employ you. So be thinking about that. And as I tell people, make sure that you put yourself in the shoes of the interviewer. What are they looking for? What would they want to know about you? And that's going to help you as you express yourself. And, I'll tell you, if you get a good interviewer, they're going to ask you questions that just kind of put you at ease, because you're going to go in there a little nervous, or maybe a lot nervous. And a good interviewer is going to ask you questions about yourself, things that will be easy for you, and you can kind of settle down and get into a groove and really be able to show the best side of you. During the interview, you need to ask some questions. Let the interviewee or interviewer ask what they want to know. And usually at the end, they're going to say, do you have any questions for us? And that's when you get a chance to ask specifically about the job. Some jobs are more sophisticated than others. Some are going to have a job description that maybe was posted online, or maybe they'll give to you while you wait to be called in. But all jobs are not that savvy. So you may have a lot of questions to ask. Just make sure that whatever is on your mind is something that you're able to ask about. And I guess I could go on and on. But one thing you want to do before you leave is ask the interviewer, when do you expect to fill this position? It's going to give you an idea about when you might hear from them, because I suspect that you're going to go on other interviews. And when you do, you'll need to know, I'm not going to hear from these people for 3 weeks, but I have a job right now in hand. So make sure you ask when you expect to fill the position. And, finally, with regard to the interview, you always want, after the interview is done and you've left the place where you were interviewed, you need to go back and do some self-reflection on it. What did they ask you that you felt you couldn't come up with a fluent answer on? what did they ask you that you felt like you hit it out of the park on with that question? Make some notes, because you may need to do this again in a week or tomorrow. And you want to use this experience, this interview, as good experience as preparation for your next interview, because most people don't have just one job in their lifetime. So I would tell you to do that. Well, lo and behold, they've offered you the job. What should you do, Dr. Kathy?
Bella Blue is excited but confused, because is it a good offer? Is it less than what she expected? I mean, she's like, oh my gosh, now what?
Well, if it's more than you
expected, research. Yeah.
I'm sorry. If the offer is more than you expected, take it and run. But that's not always the case. So if it's less than expected, Dr. Kathy, what do they need to do?
Yeah, and salary isn't everything, but you've armed yourself with the data. You know what to expect as far as salary ranges go, but you have to consider the whole package. Right. If it's a good salary range, but you only get 3 days off a year, that may not be so good. So ask about hours and holidays and sick leave and vacation. How does all that work? Are you going to have an orientation period? What do they expect there? Are you going to be on orientation for about 3 months where you have a decreased patient load and it's going to gradually go up from there? All of those other things in the package. I always tell people, look, dream pie in the sky. Write out for yourself what your dream offer would be, that they would provide you $2,000 a year with continuing education and pay your travel to wherever you want to go and your hotel rooms. That's your pie in the sky. But also know what you would be willing to accept. Okay. Are they going to cover your licensure fees? What about your professional memberships, prescriptive fees? They may not have thought about some of these things. So you need to ask about those. Are they going to cover your malpractice? Any professional needs like lab coats? Some people will provide a lab coat once a year. Books that you might need, like the clinical practice guidelines book or the billing and coding book. Are they going to help cover some of those expenses? Are they going to add your name to letterhead, to the sign out front? That's what it means by promotion of practice, that they have a nurse practitioner there. And what about a non-compete clause? If you don't know what that is, briefly, it says if you're working in this family practice, that if you leave there, then you can't work in another family practice within a certain mile radius for a certain period of time. You don't want that.
Yeah, it can be crippling. A non-compete clause can be crippling. But, I want you to think about something else as you think about your pie in the sky and your ideal job. Think that all of these things in your package are going to have to be paid by somebody, right? Somebody's going to have to pay for this in addition to your salary. Consequently, you have to be prepared. And here's the number. You're supposed to be able to bring in 2.5 times your salary just for the clinic to be able to break even. There are a lot of expenses on an employer's end for every single person who works for them. And malpractice insurance is a big one. So all of these are very, very attractive, but I can tell you that they cost a lot of money.
They cost a lot of money. So be willing to negotiate, though. Don't be afraid of negotiation. Be polite in it. Ask those things. And be prepared to walk away if you don't get a good offer. I had to do that right out of school. And it was my first job offer. But the whole reason he wanted me to come work for him is because I had 10 years of neurology experience in a very intense neurology place. So I had good experience there. But what he offered me was about $10,000 below the salary range for a nurse practitioner in the community. Well, no. I'm not willing to do that just to accept a job. So be willing to walk away. It's okay.
Yeah. And, the other side of that, Dr. Kathy, is I think you were wise to do that. But, I had the unfortunate experience one time of having a PRN position, and it was going to be 1 day a week, and I had to hire someone. And that was the only job that she had and could get, and she took it. But it was not enough to pay bills. And this poor lady was under so much financial stress that it really detracted from her clinical contributions. It really did. So, you have to take a job that will pay your bills.
Bella Blue got a job.
We got the job. Congratulations. So listen, one more point, and then we're gonna open it up to questions. But now that you are certified, you need to start thinking. I know recertification seems like a long way down the road at 5 years, but you need to begin to think about recertification right now. This is a good free CE for you, this program. So make sure that you begin to seek out continuing education opportunities. APEA has a number of them. I can't say anything because our CE director is online, but begin to seek out those opportunities where you can collect, because you don't want to wait till the last year or 6 months and then have to be able to get all these contact hours. So listen, Dr. Kathy and Jennifer, let's turn this off right now, and let's get some questions from our audience.
Let's do it.
And I know we got some to start, but let's hear what people are thinking about.
Okay, Danielle's asking, if not opening my own practice, is it necessary to join Medicare and Medicaid?
Yeah, that's going to be very attractive to an employer for you. But I mean, unless you work pure peds, you're going to need Medicare. We're an aging society, and Medicaid, that's who nurse practitioners originally were. That position was sort of created for that population. So I would encourage you to get, have the ability to take care of everybody. It makes you more marketable. It just does. Dr. Kathy, you agree?
I agree. And, CAQH is one of the hubs. And so I would also encourage you, once you have your MPI number, to go ahead and create a profile on CAQH. And that's going to make it a lot more, a lot easier for an employer to get you credentialed with the various insurance companies if you already have that set up.
Next question. Sandra is asking, thoughts on resume versus CV?
I have a definite thought. I think Dr. Kathy and I may be in different ballparks. So listen, if somebody's got a CV and it's very long because they've been in nursing for 25 years, I'll be honest, I'm not going through a 20-page CV. If you have a one-page resume, I'm going to get the high points. And when you come in and we visit, I'm going to ask you those questions that I need. So there are really two kind of schools of thought about it. Dr. Kathy feels sort of in the other direction.
I do, because I feel like a CV paints a better picture of yourself. Now, obviously, there's CVs for different reasons. There's a CV that you're going to use for research, and that CV is going to be longer. But there's a professional CV, and it doesn't have to be 16 pages long. You really don't want it to be. And you want to make sure that your headings really stand out so that they can, go to those areas quickly. But I've had nurse practitioners that I coach with LANP that have had difficulty finding jobs as a new nurse practitioner. I help them develop their CV, and that just seems to open doors for them. So
yeah. So two different schools of thought.
Yep.
Next question, Carolyn says, I really want to open a direct primary care practice once I gain the necessary experience to be successful. Do you have any advice on NPs opening DPC offices, pros or cons?
The first thing I think of, Carolyn, is from a business owner perspective, and you're going to have at least 6 months of salary and clinic expenses in order to be able to go forward with it. And where our CNPs fail is when they open something and it takes so long to be able to get reimbursement from Medicare and other sources, and they just financially can't do it. So you got to make sure you have a good chunk of cash and a good plan. Dr. Kathy.
Well, she's talking about direct primary care. So maybe we need some clarification there, because my understanding of direct primary care is you're not going to accept insurance. And so it's going to be a cash-based only practice where people pay into, they'll have a monthly family plan that they pay you monthly, and you're really kind of on call to them for whatever they need. So there's a couple of different ways. And if I'm wrong, Carolyn, just let us know. But
I missed that, Dr. Kathy. You picked it up.
Okay.
Direct primary care. Thank you.
Yeah. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. So I would research the ways to do that. One of the ways that I have found that is probably most effective for people that do direct primary care is that you need to have at least one room, even if you rent it from another clinic. So you need a central location that you can go to. Going into people's homes sounds great, but there's some downfalls for that too. So I think you really need to think about all the services that you want to offer. You need to have a room that's set up as an exam room that you will be able to do those examinations, and have a very clear business plan, even for direct primary care, just like Dr. Amelie said.
Yeah. That's the most important thing, is the last few words Dr. Kathy said. You got to have a good business plan. You really do. So I would encourage you to reach out to someone who can help you, unless that's a part of your expertise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next question. William's got a good question that I often struggle with too, William. In an interview, is it better to talk too much, filling periods of silence, or not enough?
William, it makes me uncomfortable as an interviewer when people just go on and on and on and on. So you really have to you can't talk too little and you can't talk too much. Tell them what you need, and if they need clarification, a good interviewer will always ask a follow-up question on it. But if you go on and on and on, an interviewer might think that that's how you'll be with a patient. And if I'm asking you to see 3 or 4 patients an hour, you'll never do it if you talk too much. So that's my take. Dr. Kathy, any different thoughts?
Answer succinctly and to the point. I'm a storyteller, William. I like to tell stories, but that's not always the best thing to do in an interview. Answer the question as detailed and succinctly as you possibly can, and then wait for the next question.
Yeah. And if I'm doing an interview every 30 minutes and you talk too much, I may not get through all my questions of you, and you didn't get a chance to show your best side. So succinct, I think, is the point.
Read the room. Okay, next question from Anonymous. What kind of duties would they let me do, since I don't have work experience as an NP yet? I am certified, in regards to volunteering at free clinics.
What kinds of things they would let you do, I think depends on the clinic. Like, is it what kind of clinic it is, and, where their liability is, depends on the state. Mm-hmm. I think it's very, very state dependent and clinic dependent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you have to be careful with that, especially with malpractice issues, if you're not actually working at the clinic. So you might do more broad general things, and not specific to prescribing or doing minor procedures. I'd stay away from any of that stuff. What I would do is the more generic stuff that you can think to yourself, oh, I wouldn't get in trouble for this, or, that's the way I would look at it anyways.
Okay.
Next question from Anonymous. What do you think about companies that match you with a physician for a fee? Any advantages? If I had no interest in a solo practice, but I can't find a job and it has been 9 months, is this an option?
Dr. Kathy, I'm interested in your thoughts, and then I'm going to chime in.
So lots of those companies are popping up. They even have some APRNs that work for them. And, if it gets you a collaborative physician, they're just being entrepreneurial. I don't think that there's anything shady about those. And I've reached out to some of them and gotten information because, I am the president of the Nurse Practitioner Association, and I know how difficult it is to find collaborators sometimes. And so I haven't found anything shady about them. I just think that they're entrepreneurial in spirit. But I'm going to keep fighting to get that collaborative practice agreement removed. So I want to put them out of business.
The other part of it that I see is that she said she's got no interest in a solo practice, and that's probably exactly what you would be doing. You didn't say that you are a new graduate, but I'm kind of thinking that you might be. And if you don't want to work as a solo practitioner and you don't have any experience, I would shy away from that, and I would beef up my CV. This is one I would pull on Dr. Kathy. I would say,
Mm-hmm.
let me beef up my CV and show people what I can do as far as skills. And it sounds like maybe you're in an area that's saturated with NPs, but I would beef up my CV, and I'd
Right.
look for another job. I don't know if I would pursue that.
Yeah. And, Dr. Amelie and I are both fellows. And one of the things that you have to do as a fellow is sell yourself. And I find that the majority of us don't know how to sell ourselves. As nurses, we would just walk into a place and they would hire us because we were a nurse and they need help. But as a nurse practitioner, you have to build that confidence level up and learn how to sell yourself. And on the CV is do that. So don't shy away from bragging professionally about what you've done and what you've accomplished. That's important, and it'll come through.
Yeah.
Okay, next question I'm going to take, if that's okay.
Sure.
Jeannie is asking, will APEA offer new NP review courses? I'd love to see this if it ever becomes an option. So Jeannie, I wanted to let you know, we don't offer one specific course, but we have an abundance of courses. We have courses like our review course that we do have practicing NPs that take, and that gives you continuing education credits as well. We have procedural webinars that we have for students that are just becoming NPs, and that goes over minor office procedures and suturing, even x-ray interpretation. So there's a lot of that. We have a clinical briefs bundle offer, and different clinical briefs that talk about specific diagnoses that you would see in primary care. So we have a bunch of things, with the understanding when we came up with them that it was for NPs, NPs making it for NPs. So check it out. It's on our website. There's tons of things. So, and we hope you like it. Next question, RN 61, 9 months certified as an FNP and no job. I think I might have to return to school, and this really distresses me. The FNP opportunities seem very few, and they all want experience.
Yeah, I think RN 61, I would say the same thing to you that I did to the previous person who said they're having a hard time. Beef up your CV. If you've taken an x-ray interpretation course, anything like that, put it in there and beef up your how you represent yourself. The other thing is, I don't know how many interviews you may have had. It may be that you need practice in selling yourself. So there are a lot of components to not getting a job. And obviously one of the biggest ones is that sometimes the job market doesn't look like they have any positions. Mm-hmm. And I know that is the case in some markets across the United States. But jobs for NPs are not like a job for an RN. You don't find it in the, I was going to say the newspaper, but you get these online little newspapers or news things that ask for. It's not like that with NPs. So you may have to look in different places. And my best advice to you, RN 61, is to make sure that you connect with your local NP group. That's where the jobs are. That's where you find out about a clinic that is hiring, and they never, ever have an ad anywhere, not Indeed or anywhere. So connect with your local group. I wouldn't go back to school yet. And I love school. Don't go back to school.
And yet. I would also say, and I don't know, it wasn't clarified in the question or not, but, some advertisements, if you are applying to an advertisement, will say experience, 1 year experience or whatever. Apply anyway.
Mm-hmm. True.
Apply anyway. You don't know, don't assume that they're getting this boatload of applications. And if you have beefed up your CV and you present yourself well, that may be enough. So don't shy away from applying just because it says experience required. But I agree with Dr. Amelie. We have local meetings every month in our region, and we share job opportunities that are available for nurse practitioners. Those never get posted. They're never posted on Indeed. They're never advertised anywhere. So it's just word of mouth.
Yeah.
William's asking if he should obtain or acquire a DEA number now or after accepting position, and also wants to know, for that matter, if he should acquire an NPI number.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You need to apply, and Dr. Kathy, I'm sure you agree, but you need to get all of that stuff in line. It's going to shorten the length of time that it will take an employer to be able to get reimbursement for your work, because you've got to go through those applications. Everything you can do on the front end makes you more attractive to someone who needs work or help in the clinic right now. Dr. Kathy, what's your thought on it?
I absolutely agree. It's the DEA number is probably one of the quickest turnaround times.
It's the most expensive too, huh?
It's cost $888 for 3 years. I just renewed mine. But it is a quick turnaround. And so kind of depending on what your finances are, I mean, you could wait until you had the job and apply and you would have it pretty quickly, but you need to have that NPI number
right away
and have it ready to go.
Yes.
Okay, next question. Samantha wants to know if it's taboo to ask about salary ranges during an interview, or should she wait until the position is offered?
I've had people do it both ways, and I don't think it didn't insult me as an employer, but I usually take how it's asked. What's the salary range for this? Or do you have a salary range for this position? But, you usually wait until you're offered the position to ask about salary, because that's when you begin your negotiations.
What Keita is asking, is it good to do 1 year NP residency at the VA? There's offers like this that are RN pay only.
Yeah. Listen, my whole point is you need to get in the door, and you can get terrific experience. And I'll tell you, as somebody who would hire an NP, if I had somebody who had done a year's residency with the VA, I would snatch them up, because that was good experience. And, there's nothing wrong with an RN salary right now. I know that you've been through an NP program, but I'll give you a really quick example. I had a conversation with someone last evening who just finished law school. He's taken a job clerking for a judge. And I said, how is the salary for that compared to this other job he was considering? He said, the clerk's job pays less than my wife, who is a teacher. But but that's the job he wants, because every employer he's seen, he's talked with, other law firms have said that year of clerkship under your belt is worth gold. We would take you right now if you had that. So, from the nursing perspective and from other professions, that kind of experience is invaluable when you don't have others. So be glad if you're getting an RN's pay, kind of.
Right.
Next question. Bernadette wants to know about volunteer hours. What percentage of your required 1,000 hours can be volunteer?
Go ahead, Dr. Kathy.
It's AANP has the 1,000 hours that is required. ANCC, that's one of the options that you can do. But, you can use volunteer hours as long as you're practicing as a nurse practitioner. And there's not a particular percentage. You would just need to get a statement from them telling how many hours that you have volunteered as a nurse practitioner in their clinic.
Sunshine is asking, what should I consider, salary or working as an independent 1,099 contractor?
1099.
1099.
I think, Sunshine, it just kind of depends. Salary often comes with benefits. A 1099 doesn't. You usually make more as an independent contractor, often you do, but you get no benefits. You pay your own taxes and everything is on you. And if you don't work, you don't get paid. If it's a salary, you usually have some, maybe some sick days, you have some benefits. So it just kind of depends on what works for your situation. Maybe you have a spouse who has benefits and you don't need that, or everybody's situation will be a little bit different. Dr. Kathy, you have anything else to add on that?
I would, if you are going to consider being a 1099 contractor, then I would meet with a CPA and ask them if it would be beneficial for you to set up an LLC, because sometimes that helps you with business, because you're going to be your own business. And so sometimes that helps with business expenses, and just ask all those questions so that you'll kind of know what's the best option there. And like Dr. Amelie said, you have to pay your own taxes. And that's a whole lot easier if you do that on a quarterly basis versus waiting until you file your taxes at the end of the year, because sometimes depending on how much money you made, you're going to take a hard hit there. And that's a little bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah, it really is. That was a great point, Dr. Kathy, about the LLC. There are also liability protections with an LLC versus not if you do a 1099 route.
Okay. Danielle's asking, what are your thoughts on companies that sell packages to get FNPs started in their own practice? She's seen one advertised for $6,000 to get you up and running, offering computer programs and easy insurance access. What are your thoughts on this, pros or cons? Have you all looked at these companies?
I'm aware that these companies exist. And again, I think it's someone with an entrepreneurial spirit, but a lot of times docs are in the same position. They get out of school and they want to open their own whatever, and they don't want to have to go through all of this. And sometimes these companies help facilitate that. The other thing is that most NPs have been RNs who are employed by a hospital, and they don't wear a business owner's hat. And I'll tell you, to succeed in business, you have to think like a business owner. And most NPs don't come to an FNP position with that skill. And so I think that may be beneficial to you to have a service like this, but it's expensive and, depends on whether you have those skills or someone can help you. Dr. Kathy, what are your thoughts?
I would certainly research those companies, because there are some really good companies out there. And, depending on if you're working a full-time job as a nurse practitioner while you're trying to set up your practice, that may be beneficial because you don't have the time to spend on that. And they do. And they know how to get your CLIA waivers and all those other things. And so it saves you a lot of time in doing that. But there's some non-reputable companies out there too. So do your research on the company and make sure that they are reputable. We also have a colleague that is part of an organization that it's kind of a mentorship kind of thing. You pay for it, but they teach you how to set up your own clinic if that's what you're planning to do. And by the time you finish their mentorship course, I think you have all the materials that you need to be able to open a practice. So there's a couple of different avenues, and it just depends on you. You can certainly do it all on your own, but you do need to have a CPA and you do need to have an attorney that you can at least communicate with to ask questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump around for the sake of time. RN61 is asking, do you need a physician to get your DEA?
No. You just go online to DEA site, fill out their information, give them a big check. I think it's, I don't know, $831 or $888. And they'll send it.
And you kind of need to know what your state's requirements are. In Louisiana, we have to have a CDS license that is renewable yearly. And in order to get the DEA, you have to have a valid CDS license in your state. So you kind of need to check with your state about what the requirements are, if there's anything that you have to have before you apply for the DEA.
Right. And in the state of Louisiana, Dr. Kathy, dog catchers need a CDS too. Did you know that?
I know. It's crazy.
They really do.
I believe it. So that they can administer the drugs to.
Yes. Exactly.
I believe it.
Interesting. Anonymous is saying, I have worked as an FNP for only 6 months, but unfortunately was laid off due to the pandemic. What recommendations would you suggest for an NP trying to come back to practice after 1.5 years of not working?
Dr. Kathy, thoughts?
That's a tough one. And I kind of read some of the others there, and it's people that, have had difficulty finding a jobs. And I think Anonymous is kind of in the same boat there. And I don't know what areas you're in. Sometimes we find that people that are in really urban areas, that the market is saturated. So you may expand your search. You may also go back to some of those connections that you had as an RN. If you worked for are on a cardiac floor and you know some of the cardiologists well, reach out to them and say, hey, do you remember me? I'm so-and-so. I was a nurse on the floor, especially if you were a great nurse. I'm a nurse practitioner now. I know you may not have any openings, but have you ever considered hiring a nurse practitioner?
Yeah. And the other thing, one more plug for joining your local NP organization is, again, that's where jobs are. So don't overlook that as a resource that is there for you that could help in that. But Dr. Kathy is right. If the area is Houston, going to those outlying areas will give you a better chance of getting a job than being in downtown Houston near the medical center. So
absolutely.
Let's take one more question. It's the top of the hour, and I don't want to run late.
Okay. Lori's asking, and I've heard this before too, if I do not have a position yet, which address should I use as an NPI and DEA? Should I get a P.O. box address? I was advised not to use my home address.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dr. Kathy.
Because it's public. It's public information.
Yeah.
So if you put your home address on there and patients Google you, they can find where you live. So I would get a P.O. box for sure for my NPI number. And when you get your first job, go back into the system, to the NPPES system, and change your address. Don't forget to do that.
Yeah, because the renewal is going to go to your employer, and if you're not employed there anymore, then you may forget about the renewal. So is that, I kind of jumped in, Dr. Kathy, but is that what you were going to say?
Well, no, I mean, for the NPI number, there is no renewal. And so that, whatever you put on there for your...
I'm sorry. I was thinking for the DEA. I'm sorry.
The DEA, yeah. I mean, definitely you're going to need that for renewal, but that's not really... your DEA number is public, but the information that you put on there it's not public. I'm sorry, it's not public. And certainly the information that you put on your application, they can't find that out either. But the NPI number, that's like your social security number as a medical professional. And it's public, and it will show your address because they want to track you in your practice locations. So but once you get a practice location, don't forget to go back in and change that for your NPI number, especially. I have my DEA number come here to my home address or renewal so that I can make sure that I get it.
All right. Very good. Well, listen, it's the top of the hour. I think we ought to wrap it up right now. We want to thank everybody who came, and hopefully you found this helpful. Dr. Kathy and Jennifer and the team behind the scenes, thank you so much for being there to support these new NPs, and congratulations again. Yes. Welcome to a great profession.